Here we are, day 4, beginnings of Git. I find this to be the most powerful tool at our disposal as software developers. This allows us to communicate with the code we're actually changing and why we are changing it. It's this level of meta information that empowers levels of collaboration and productivity I have not seen in other industries. If you were to ask me what is the secret sauce or secret tool at any software developer's disposal, it's version control and the collaboration that an online platform like GitHub allows us to do. I like to frame the pain that Git solves. Imagine you're on a website or you're building an app and you need to create files to make it work. You're going to have to modify and create hundreds of files, and it's going to be incredibly confusing. Maybe you name one file, file 1, maybe you name another file, file 2, but you run into a lot of issues of communicating which one's the most recent version. And along the way, what are the reasons why you changed between those versions? Not even getting into what it's like when you have other people also modifying those files. I'm sure you or someone you know, or at some point in your life, you've been in a situation where you and another person are trying to modify the same file and you can't reconcile which one is the right one. Git solves all of that. It's an incredibly difficult thing to use in your process in the beginning, but it blossoms into this amazing process. Today we're going to cover what Git looks like in command line, how to get started with it, and something I like to call the order of operations for Git. Beginning with Git. Git is the best way to overcome having two different versions of a file. So imagine this is version 1. This is the first time you wrote your email to somebody, or you wrote up the project brief, or you wrote up the first version of your resume, and this is the second version of your resume. So you might have called this resume 1, and then moved on to resume 2. These are two distinctly different files, but they're related to each other. That's why you named them like this. There's something that you didn't want to lose the progress that you had created, because maybe you went in a completely different branch. You started off with one idea, and that became another idea, but you didn't really want to lose this idea. You didn't want to lose the progress that you've made. This is called versioning. You're already following a principle that needs to exist. Also, I look at this as a non-destructive workflow. I was first introduced to this in college with Photoshop. There's ways to make changes to photos and digital media that's non-destructive. You can always go back to a point in which the change didn't exist, because maybe this now is not a valid approach and you want to go off of this approach for a completely new one, and then a new one after that, and then a new one after that. They're not as meaningful if you don't have that bad approach that you took, and you can't see the changes in which you went through different iterations. Git is the underlying tool that allows us to track those changes and to have this non-destructive workflow. Git is primarily a command line tool. There are graphical interfaces that we can use to accomplish these tasks, but Git works best as a command line tool. Time and time again, you'll run into problems with the graphical interfaces that you'll just have to spin up in command line. You'll have to use command line to overcome certain things. You might be able to get most of the things done with the graphical interface, but at some level you will have to jump into command line, and that's why we have to learn it this way first, or have to become aware of it this way first. And I look at it as an order of operations. We have add, commit, pull. It's important to know these because this is what you'll do roughly 80% of the time. In order to set up Git, there's a command called init, and I'll show you that in a moment. But the more important one is add. What this looks like in command line is this. You type git, you type add, and then it takes another command, which I use -a. You can also use dot or period, and that's fine. It'll accomplish a similar task. So let's break this down. Git is the command line tool, or CLI, much like ls or cat or vim or any of the other things that we've used in command line. It follows the same principles. Add is the method or the thing that we want to do, the action. So we want to add our files. And the third one, an argument, the information. In this case, -a stands for any files or folders that have changed. Dot says everything in the directory, which can be a little bit more powerful than we want. This is an important thing to just have in the front of your head because arguments are one of the foundational things with programming. You're essentially running a function through a command line tool, command line interface, CLI, and you're writing pseudocode in command line in real time. Let's look at the next command, commit. Commit's one of my favorite ones because it's how we explain why we changed the files that we did. What it looks like in command line is git commit, and you press return. This will actually load up. So we have our tool, we have our method, but it'll perform an action for us. It'll kick us off into Vim by default, or any sort of text editor. You can actually change these settings, but initially by default it'll load up Vim. And as we covered yesterday, we have to use the I mode, so keep in mind, go into insert mode, and once you're inside of insert mode, you can make changes, and then to get out of insert mode you need to press escape and then type :WQ. This will right quit. This will then give you output. This entire command sequence, this entire thing that you've done will give you output saying, hey, you've made your commit. What you type inside of Vim is why you made the changes that you made. Let's explore what this looks like. We're inside of the work folder and we want to start utilizing Git to enable us to track our changes to different files. I'm going to ls so I can ensure I'm in the right place, or I could even pwd and it would tell me the entire folder structure there. In order to initialize or start using Git in a folder, I type git space init. And it'll give me output that says, hey, you've created a Git repository, which is a term for, think of it as a folder with special powers, special Git powers. Now if I ls, you don't see anything new. One special way to use ls is with arguments. If you type ls-a, it'll show us the hidden files and folders inside of a directory. As you can see, dot and dot dot are hidden magical things. As we covered before, dot means for this current folder and dot dot means one folder up. We can go back up to the parent folder and we see this other magical thing, .git. I'm pointing this out mainly because this will verify, if you don't have the same tools that I do, as you see right here, will help you verify that Git is inside of this folder and this now represents a repository. And if I want to now follow the order of operations for Git, I need to add my files. Git add didn't do anything. What that is saying is you need to tell the command git add what you want to add. And in this case, I do want to add everything. I'm going to type -a, capital A, not dot. It did suggest for me to use dot. My best practice is to not do that. So I'm going to follow through with this. You can use the period or dot, and that's fine. But for best practices, this is what I suggest. So now if I type git status, think of this as like the ls for Git. It allows you to list out what Git is seeing right now. And it's telling me a lot of useful information, but mostly it's telling me I've created new files and I'm ready to be committed. Changes ready to be committed. Now, after I've added, the next part of the order of operations for Git is to commit. Git commit. Well, check this out. We're actually inside of Vim right now. And in order for us to make a change, we have to type I. And you can see at the bottom of my screen the word insert. This is signifying I can now modify this file. I'm going to type beginning practice with Git on my local machine and the order of operations. Now, to remove myself from Vim and save my changes, I have to first press escape, type :WQ, return. Now if I type git status, it'll tell me, hey, nothing to commit, working tree clean. For now, this second statement is the most important thing. Now on my local machine, if I want to verify my changes worked, I either type git status to tell me nothing to commit, or git log. And this will allow me to see, wow, I have a commit. This is called a commit hash up here at the top. I was the one who made it. This is the date and time and why I made those changes. So now you've gotten a peek into what Git does in command line and how it works. We're going to spend a few days on this because it is such a profound tool at our disposal. I really feel like your awareness needs to be iterated on. I really feel like a firm grasp and awareness over these concepts will truly help you along the way, learning how to become a product developer. In my experience, Git and GitHub are the number one thing that students through a boot camp spend the entire time feeling like they need to perfect. I have yet to see someone, including myself, learn Git in a weekend or learn it quickly. It's something that you just have to spend a lot of time using and a lot of time absorbing new awarenesses or new information from sources that click with you.